not like your work is being judged where you hand in something and they check it over. It's not like your degree where you write an essay and you get an A star. It's you're the one on show, and as a teacher it is you're at the front, you are your own resource, and you are being judged, and that's where the nerves come from.
10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes silent reading. If you haven't got...
Leandra is nervous because it's the 6th and final observation of her NQT year.
Leandra's going to be doing a lesson with Mixed Ability Year 7 group, and she's going to be looking at poetry. So I'm going to be watching her lesson, seeing how she's progressed over the course of the year, and then I'll be giving her some feedback on that lesson, and just chatting about maybe ways forward for not only the rest of this term but for next year.
Passport. Excellent. Well done, Year 7. You came in brilliantly. I'm really impressed. So we're going to have 10 minutes silent reading, and then I'll let you know what we're doing for the rest of the lesson. Okay, buddy? Yeah, that one's quite good. Your learning aim today is to consider what is poetry, okay? And I don't mind what you think about it. I want you to be honest. And I want you to think about your experiences of poetry.
Today, Leandra is also going to get the class to write a poem using a Benjamin Zephaniah verse as the basis.
Now, I'm going to play the poem again.
Poetry is like a rhythm that drops. The tongue ties a rhythm that shoots like shots.
The lesson observations are, I think, one of the major developmental sort of areas for the NQTs. We take them really, really seriously, because at the end of the day, it's what goes on in the classroom that really matters.
You shouldn't work with children and animals, they say, because there's no control and you don't know what's going to happen. You've no control over the situation, so it's about, trying to be proactive as opposed to reactive. And also, you've got someone who is very skilled at their job, watching you and assessing you on how you're doing.
Is because I've been able to imagine. Which one out of those that you've come up with do you think best describes what poetry is?
There's a couple.
Can you pick one? Could you put your finger on the most important? You think Kezia?
From the heart.
Descriptive and from the heart, so it's got to be passionate. You've got to be passionate.
Specifically in this lesson, I'd really like to see not just sort of good control. I think sort of we're beyond that now. I'd like to sort of see the students really engage with the task, and sort of students making really good progress with their learning. So I'd expect to see a variety of different strategies being used in the class during the lesson, particularly things like questioning and activities which would really stretch the students' thinking.
It's difficult to go up to somebody and actually say that I love you. But if you wrote a poem, then you could actually say exactly what you felt.
Yeah, poetry has a special way, doesn't it? It's saying what you want in the least amount of words, isn't it? Where they're really carefully thought out. And there's nothing better than having a love poem on Valentine's Day, is there?
I'll just make notes on things that I see that I think are particularly good. I might be writing questions down, sort of, have you considered, differentiating that particular activity? And so throughout the course of the lesson, I'm constantly trying to think, what is the key thing this teacher's going to need to work on to sort of improve their practice.
Now guys, I just would like to say that I am extremely impressed with the ideas you were coming up with today. Thank you very much.
Well, I enjoyed myself, and I think the children did as well. And you can't really go wrong with Benjamin Zephaniah. He's always a good choice. Kids are always really inspired by him, and I think we got some really nice answers from the children at the end of the lesson.
Once the lesson is finished, Steve and Leandra have a feedback session. They'll talk about what went well with the class and areas for development.
They are still kind of...
We'd like to see NQTs being very reflective, because you won't need to say much, and they will sort of start to pull out the key things that they need to improve themselves. So in terms of kind of the whole lesson itself, were there any things that you thought that didn't run quite as well as you'd liked?
Well, I wasn't expecting them to kind of have so much trouble getting started on the blank sheet to fill in their own poems. I thought they'd have plenty of ideas.
Okay. On your printed copy of this poetry, which you should have in front of you, should be this one here. Okay. There are lots of words missing, and your job is to put your own words into the spaces.
I think, when you give them something with a blank sheet, they sometimes do kind of worry, especially year 7, they worry, are they doing it right, they're doing it wrong? And I think because I was so kind of open with it, I said, you can write whatever you like, what do you feel about poetry, or whatever you like. They found that really difficult because normally in lessons they're told what to write. I'm constantly telling them, use this kind of sentence structure, put these words in, do this. And actually what I was asking them to do is the complete opposite.
So you have 5 minutes now to fill in your sheet, okay? And I also want you to come up with a title for your poem, okay? But are there any questions? Yes?
When we do it, do we have to make them rhyme?
No, you don't have to make them rhyme. It's your poem, you can do whatever you like, okay?
So I thought, okay, I should have modelled that maybe to start with, so then I stopped them and said, right, okay, let's come up with some lines together to help them get started.
Because you did do that, didn't you?
Yeah.
You sort of gave them the task, and then I think you realised that there were a few that were unsure of what to write.
Right, guys, can we have your attention again? Some people are having trouble starting. If I was going to start, I'd say that first sentence there is like a summary of what you feel about poetry. So, this poetry is like music to my ears. This poetry is like my favourite ice cream on a Saturday afternoon. It could be anything, but I reckon that first sentence there is a summary of what you think about poetry. Okay? Don't worry about making it rhyme, just put what you feel down.
Yeah, did well to model how to start the poem, so that was great. Once you'd done that, how effective do you think that was?
I think it helped most of them, because I kind of said, I was being silly with it, and they thought, well, I can do whatever I like now, Some of them were still having problems. And actually, I would have liked longer. I would like for them to have spent longer on that task.
He says it can be romantic, and also he says it can be fun, but also he the serious side of it as well.
Excellent. So what would be the one word out of those 3?
Emotional.
Emotional. Can you justify your choice?
Don't know.
I love the way you sort of stuck at it as well when that student was struggling to sort of justify his thinking and explain his thinking clearly. A lot of teachers would have just said, yeah, okay, fine, let's move on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I recognise that you said you want to develop this sort of understanding of how to use Bloom's taxonomy further in your lessons, but you had a go at it, and I think that's excellent.
And also I kind of knew that he was quite a bright student, he's a level 5 student, and I thought, no, actually, you're not going to get away with that, because I know full well that you know how to justify your answer, you just probably don't understand the word justify right now.
Why do you think it's about emotion? Why do you think he's saying poetry is about emotion?
Because it's kind of like speaking what you feel and...
Yes, so it's speaking your feelings. Excellent, lovely. Well done, guys.
I think the areas that I can improve are my questioning skills, and it's something that I'm working towards, so trying to phrase questions in a way where you're using the verbs from the taxonomy, so sort of justify, can you compare, and I'm not always successful at that, and I know that that's something I really need to work on, so that's going to be my kind of target for next year, because I think that's where the kind of real learning happens.
We've done quite a lot of in-school training on using questioning to stretch students' thinking. And it was great to see that Leandra was kind of trying that out, and she tried it on a few occasions, and she was sort of asking the students to compare, justify their opinions, and so on. Now that I think is sort of something which she could maybe work on even more and put together sequences of sort of questions which sort of stretch the students' thinking even further.
Billy, can you compare your definition that you've picked to George's? Are you tempted by George's now, or will you stick with your one?
I'm not sure, because it's always good to try something new, and I guess if you try something new, you can feed emotions to it and stuff like that. But I'd still stick with the Benjamin Zephaniah one.
While we're on the topic of Zephaniah, he is meant, yes, but remember my rule, guys, that we don't shout out in the classroom, okay? We raise our hands if we have something to say.
Super classroom management, but I think what impressed me wasn't the fact they were well behaved here today, it was the fact that it was clear that they understand exactly what's expected of them and the rules and routines in the class really, really well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't just a good performance, so to speak.
No.
There was real clear evidence that you'd worked very hard at teaching them exactly what you expect them to do.
It's very much like I found things that have helped me with classroom management and having routines. So they come in and they know exactly what they need to do.
That came through really strongly through your lesson. I think it was a real strength and an area I was really delighted to see you really mastered, haven't you? Sort of the classroom routines, classroom management.
Yeah.
You right on the money there today.
Let's hear from a girl now. Let's hear from Becky.
This poetry is like a language we speak when we have emotions to express. The tongue fires a story that no one's heard before. This poetry is designed for you, not to chase you, to go away. Dancehall style, move to the groove, to the poem I now speak. This poetry now, for people who have hatred, let it go and come to me. Preaching, follow me like you is a congregation filled with peace and a new way of looking at the world. This poetry is not like hypocrites, but truth from the heart.
Oh, that is fantastic. Excellent. I think this is a round of applause. Thank you, guys. That's really nice. That's really nice, actually, you guys clapping. You have 2 minutes now before the bell goes, if you want to go on time, to come up with a definition of what poetry means to you in your pairs. 1 minute.
And I thought I put down here good awareness of timings, and I put almost, because as I was writing that, the bell went, didn't it?
I know.
But I think you did pretty well to fit quite a lot into quite a tight lesson.
I would have liked longer, but I was under time constraints, and I thought I need to get to the end, this needs to be finished. So, you know, I was aware that I was running out of time and they were going to be under pressure to finish.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, sometimes lessons just aren't long enough.
Pack away, guys. Stand quietly behind your chairs. Right, can you go around and collect those sheets in for me? Collect all the worksheets in. I'll let you know. I don't know myself.
In terms of an area for development, I think Leandra could sort of make the lesson sort of a little less teacher-led and more kind of time should be given for the students to sort of explore their ideas. At the initial phase of the lesson was quite long, where Leandra was reading lots to the students, and I think if she cut that down and gave more time for the students to think for themselves, you know, we would have got even more out of the kids. Are there any things you could have changed in terms of your lesson structure that would have given you sort of more time?
Yeah, I could have cut down some of the information I gave them at the start.
Okay.
And the feedback session slightly shorter, just to have kind of brought time on. And obviously, if I hadn't had the reading at the start, they would have finished that within kind of, you know, that would have been perfect, that extra 10 minutes.
Just for me to interject there, because I thought the student feedback was really useful.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned, I might cut out the student feedback. I actually thought the student feedback kind of added to the lesson.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. It's very normal for NQTs to speak too much at the start of the lesson and so on, and this is something which I'm sure will change as she becomes more experienced. In fact, in fairness to Leandra, I've seen many experienced teachers do exactly what Leandra had done, and what I think I'm really excited about is she's shown the capacity to really make big gains next year.
What I need to work on now is the kind of real kind of bread and butter of the lesson and the kind of real learning.
Yeah.
Which is, I suppose, what you'd expect at the end of the NQT year.
It might well be. I think, and that's why I think you've made really, really good progress this year. Well done.
Thank you.